Johnson & Johnson releasing quarterly results. Meg Terrell's here. She's got the numbers and the breakdown and a special interview. Meg, take it away.
Well, Becky, thanks so much. J&J reported adjusted quarterly earnings of $1.86 per share. That was 4 cents above estimates. Revenue also above Wall Street forecasts. Joining us now to discuss this, the rest of the year, and the upcoming vaccine news, Joseph Wolk, J&J Chief Financial Officer and member of the CNBC Global CFO Council. Joe, great to see you this morning. Let's start with the quarter. You had a beat. It looked like it was mainly driven by your pharmaceuticals unit, maybe a slight miss in medical devices. Is that so impacted by the pandemic? Tell us about what drove this beat this quarter.
Good morning, Meg. Pleasure to be here with you. 2020 was certainly an exciting year on many fronts, one that we'll never forget. And as Alex Gorski, our CEO, said many times to the audience here at Johnson & Johnson, we were built for times like this. And I can think of many data points that really symbolize what our 135,000 associates did throughout 2020 to address the pandemic. And the financial results are right in line with that. It's a great data point. We did beat with the pharmaceutical unit in terms of our top line revenue. Medical devices came in as expected, so we did see some higher case count towards the end of the year. Hearing some good news recently that hospitalizations are down, so that bodes very well. And our consumer group grew very competitively and improved their margin profile. We're very excited about 2021. As you can see in our guidance, we have significantly raised our revenue projections, probably growing around 10%. And then our earnings per share is also anticipated to grow about 18% in the coming year. What was significant in 2020, what I'm particularly proud of, is that we were able to invest more in R&D than we did in actually 2019. So about $800 million more in investment. So we very much, despite all the turbulence that happened in 2020 and all the short-term uncertainty, we continue to remain focused on the long term.
Well, tell us about how you're modeling for the year ahead. I mean, you mentioned some positive news in hospitalization numbers coming down in the fourth quarter, but they are still at these absolutely crazy record levels. How do you model for what the pandemic looks like throughout 2021 and perhaps the effect of these variants with people quite worried they could affect hospitalizations even more?
Yes, that's a great question, Meg. What I would say is, we do anticipate a gradual improvement throughout the year. As we've come to see in 2020, great health is important to have a great economy. And as there is more vaccine availability out there, as we work our way through the pandemic, we expect a stabilizing and consistent growth rate. Our pharmaceutical unit had some elevated performance in the first quarter of 2020 because, as you might recall, pharmacy benefit managers extended script durations. Our consumer business, Tylenol and some Listerine products were significant in the first quarter of 2020. So we'll see a little bit of abnormality in terms of the smoothness of growth. Medical devices, we expect continued improvement with a big second quarter given some of the impacts that were experienced in the second quarter of 2020. Really got to give a lot of credit to the healthcare providers, the healthcare systems. They are much more adept than the early days of the pandemic in terms of being able to treat COVID patients, but also treat other patients who are in need of very, very important procedures.
Well, you mentioned increasing vaccine availability as being key to helping the recovery. Of course, you guys are directly involved in that. We are expecting your phase 3 data imminently. I want to ask you about supply. There was a story in the New York Times January 13th saying that J&J lagged its production targets for the vaccine. But we had Mark McClellan on, one of your board members, former FDA commissioner, on the Shep Smith show last week, who said you guys are still targeting 100 million doses available by April. Is that right? And is there any production lag?
Yeah, so, Meg, with the trial itself, right, we plan to report out by early next week in terms of our results. As you know, it's a very robust 45,000 person study across 8 countries and 3 different continents. We do have some of these new strains potentially captured in our data as we had sites in South Africa as well as Brazil. So we'll let the scientists do their work there. In terms of supply, though, we're very confident and on track to meet all of our commitments, which would include 100 million doses to the U.S. By the end of June, about 200 million doses by the end of the year to the EU. With shipments starting in April, and then also to developing countries as well, about 200 million doses this year that will begin shipping in the second half. And our plans are right on track. Our supply chain has done a great job in terms of improving our capacity.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.